morning. Welcome. My name is Nancy Lopez, and I am the Family Engagement Resource Teacher here for Elk Grove. And today we are on our fourth session, which is a writing. It's all about writing from preschool, kinder to about first grade. So again, welcome and thank you for being here. So we're going to go ahead and get started with our agenda. Like every meeting, we'll do an icebreaker on getting to know each other. We'll talk briefly about what worked well at our last session with high frequency words. And then we will talk about the new essential standard, which will be writing. I'll show you examples today of what a kinder writing and a first grade writing looks like, and we'll talk about what different things we want to look at and how it will progress. And then we'll do a little practice on organizing writing for our students. Then we'll do a quick summary and just do a little recognition at the end of our 4 sessions, okay? Today, I'm going to go ahead and move on to the writing. And this up here is one of the Common Core writing standards for kindergarten, okay? So the reason why I'm going to show you this is because I want you just to pay close attention to this part right here where it says, use a combination of drawing, dictating, and writing to narrate a single event or several loosely linked events. Tell about the events in order in which they occurred and provide a reaction to what happened. Okay, so I know that this is a lot going on there. But if we break this down and we just talk about the drawing right here, that's the first stage. And if we even break it down further, we can even talk about when little kids, like maybe even the 10-month-old or the 1-year-old, when they're scribbling, that's writing to them. Okay, so we want to make sure that we recognize those stages of children when they're scribbling, and we recognize that that's writing for them. So in kindergarten, the first one right here, like I said, it's drawing. So even looking at their drawings, and when they're drawing and they're talking about their picture, that's writing. They're sharing a story. They're telling what's going on in the story, and they're thinking and drawing what they remember from the event that they're talking about, okay? Then next would be the dictating part, and that could be either them, talking about it, or us even writing as they're telling the story. And then finally, the writing piece. And again, the writing will look different in different stages. It might just be a scribble again with the drawing, or it might be a few letters with the sounds that they're saying. It might just be one word. It might just be a picture of the park and the child writing park. Okay, so it's a beginning stage, but it's what will it'll progress into a sentence. And I'll show you examples of what that's going to look like. Okay, so before we talk about this, I'm going to go ahead and hand out the folders here. So I'll give you 2 each. And then if you can open your folder and pull out this sheet, it's the 5-star writing. So it looks like this. So I'm going to go ahead and just talk about all these 5-star writing. And your child's teacher might have already handed something similar to this. They have different ones online. I like this one because it's pretty simple, and a child, if you're working with your child on writing, you can just show them this, and they could probably go down the list when they look at their sentence. So the first one on here, it's capital letter to start my sentence. So we want to make sure that we remind our children when they're writing to start with the capital letter. Okay, it's always a big letter to start, and everything else is lowercase. When they're starting to write, a lot of times they use uppercase letters in all of their words, or when they're writing. So we want to just remind them that it's only the first letter is capital, or if it's their name or a proper noun that they're using in between their sentence. Okay. The second one is ending with the punctuation, and for the most part in kinder they use a period. Okay. Later on, they'll start, to figure out that if it's a question, it's a question mark, and if they're really excited about something, it's an exclamation mark, okay? The third one is using finger space, or some kind of space in between, okay? And that's one that takes time for children to develop. And I will show you a couple of strategies, or at least one strategy to help your child if they need help with the finger spacing or the spacing in between the words. And we want to make sure that it's a little space, because a lot of times they want to make a big space. So using finger is fine for finger spaces. The fourth one on here is neat handwriting, just making sure that they're writing correctly, their letters correctly. And again, a lot of times when they're beginning to write, they're going to write with big letters. And that's okay for a while. I will show you different ways to help with the big writing. But for the most part, we just want to make sure that they're forming the letters correctly. And then the last part is just making sure that the sentence makes sense. So going back to read the sentence, and then hopefully they can hear themselves if they made a mistake, or if they figure out something here that maybe they missed the capital, they can correct themselves, okay? So again, this is something you can use while they're writing to help them guide their sentence and support them, okay? So what I'm going to do next is, you can keep that out because I want you to kind of go through this when we're looking at these. So these are examples of student writing, okay? I want us together to look at the writing and then figure out what it is the child wrote. And then I want to go over the 5-star writing and see what they did well and what they may need help with, okay? So going back to that Common Core standard about drawing, dictating, and writing, I want you to look at the picture. And then just first, let's talk about the picture. What do you see here? A girl and pizza. Good. And then look at what she wrote here. What did she write? I like pizza. That's exactly what she wrote. I like pizza. Okay, so now I want you just to think, using the 5-star writing, what did she do well here? She started with a capital letter. Good. A period at the end. Spaces. Very good. Yeah. And for the most part, she wrote the letters correctly. This K, maybe I would say, hey, you know. One other thing I want to point out, I know that the word like is not spelled correctly. That's a high frequency word. If they have already been introduced to this word, I would maybe say, hey, that's a high frequency word. Let's go back and correct it. However, pizza is not a high frequency word. It's just a word that they will, have to know how to spell. But pizza, if you read it phonetically, it says pizza, okay? I would leave that alone in kindergarten. I wouldn't say too much about this because they use their sounds to spell. So this is a perfect example of, a simple kinder writing. It's actually pretty good because they actually did start with the, they have a lot of the 5-star writing. So this is a good example of what a kinder writing looks like around this time, okay? So I'm going to go ahead and move to the next one. Okay, this one's a little bit more tough to see, but if you look at the picture, let's look at the picture first. So this is the student, and then look at what he has here. What do you think that is? A computer? A cell phone? Yeah, okay. Okay, and then I want you to try and see if maybe you can, I'm going to help you with spacing. Okay, so like this word right here, what do you think that says? He, good job, he. And then how about this one? Has. Okay, he has. Okay, now this one I'm going to help you too. It says awesome. So he has awesome. Okay, remember we said this might be like a computer or something. Oh, I thought you said app. He has awesome app on his pad. Yeah, on his pad, on his iPad. So he has awesome app on his iPad. So, okay. Now I know, so let's go back first to talk about what did he do well? And think about that Common Core standard about the drawing, the dictating, and the writing. So he has a picture. He has some kind of writing on here. Obviously, I mean, we were able to read. His letters are written. They're not, scribbles, or they're actual letters. So if this was your child, what would you help your child with? Good, Yeah, to start with the capital. The punctuation, yeah. And the spaces, yeah. I would focus on spaces because he actually has a really good sentence here that goes with his drawing. It's just the spacing, okay? So I'm going to show you a quick way to help your child with spacing, okay? So I'm just going to pretend this is your paper, okay? Before they start writing on the paper that they're going to write with, I want you to use a pencil and draw 2 lines. So you're just going to draw 2 lines that go like this. Okay? So, so then you have them right. So let's just say we're writing the I like pizza. Okay, so they're going to write I, and then in each box they're going to write a word. Okay? So I like, and then pizza. Okay. So I like pizza. Okay, so when they're done, then either you can do it or your child can do it, is erase the lines. Okay? So then that way they see the spaces, and then also as they're writing, they're forced to move their hand. Okay? Now it's okay to also say finger space, but this I have found in the classroom that this has worked really well with students. And then eventually they'll remember that they have to move their hands, so then you won't have to do those lines, okay? So this is one thing that you can do before they start writing is using those lines. As they get a little better, you can maybe do 4 lines so that the spaces start to get a little smaller. But it's okay to start with the 2 so that they move their hand, okay? So that's a strategy you can use to help with the spacing. How about this one? So I, yeah. It's an apple tree, good, yeah. I love my apple tree. So what would you, so let's talk about the good things. So 2 good things that this student did. Yep, they started with the capital and their spaces, good. So now what would you help your child if they were writing like this? What would you tell your child? To not have uppercases, to use lowercase, yeah, lowercase letters. And the period at the end. Good, yeah. If your child is writing with uppercase letters all the time, it's okay to have an alphabet chart in front of them too, just to remind them, like, oh, write the lowercase, okay? Do you notice how they wrote apple? Yeah, they wrote it phonetically, because if you say apple, you kind of do hear that H in there if you say apple, like a little bit. Yeah, I would leave this alone. If they're in kinder, I would not, correct them. Now, if they're in, 4th, 5th grade and they're writing like this, then yes, I would definitely say, hey, let's check how you write apple. But for a beginning reader, this is fine. As long as they're using the sounds they hear, that's okay. Okay, if they're writing, if they had written a W in here, then I would also say, like, hey, let's sound out the word apple. Where do you hear that W? Because they should be writing what they hear. Okay, this was a little bit more advanced. So if you're seeing the progression of the writings, so first I want you to look again at the drawing. Now this one has labels. This is also really, really important for kinder, is to write labels on their picture. The labels will then help them create a sentence. So I encourage the kinders to write labels on their pictures, okay? So let's talk about this picture first. Where do you think they're at? Out at the park? Yeah, I see that they, drew the sky, the clouds, and then there's grass here. And then what does that say? Me, good. And then this looks like it's his friend Connor, because he wrote Connor right there. Okay, and then without reading this part, what do you think they're doing? Yeah, it looks like they're playing with a ball or some kind of sport, yeah. Okay, so let's go ahead and try and read this. So, I went, Where are they at? They're at, it looks like they're at the park, right? Are they inside? No, where are they? They are outside. Yeah, okay, so I went outside, okay, and then I played Frisbee, yeah, okay. So I went outside, I played Frisbee, okay? So again, good things that they did here. They started with a capital, they have spaces, they have a period. A couple things here that I would just maybe suggest is the high frequency words. This is supposed to be went. And if it's been introduced, again, just remind them. It's a high frequency word. Let's spell it correctly. Outside, I mean, they use the sounds that they know here. So yeah, this one I would just maybe actually talk more about, well, what else did you do? Because it looks like they're writing. So I would say, like, who did you play Frisbee with? Oh, I played with Connor. So maybe they could even add more to their writing here, okay? But do you see how I like pizza and then how now it's developing more? Yeah, so there's a big difference. The writing too, the formation of the letters is also improving, okay? Okay, this one is a little hard to see, but I'll help you here. Now, remember I was talking about the drawing piece, the drawing part of the Common Core? Okay, here I would actually even suggest more drawing so that we know more about what they're writing about. So that's just me, and then also maybe labeling. Okay, so I don't know if you can see here, but that's actually I. Okay, so let's see if we can read this together. So I like to play. Good job. I like to play. So it's M-I. So what do you think they're trying to write here? My. Yeah, they're trying to write my. I like to play my. Do you know, what does that say? Xbox 300. So I like to play my Xbox 300. And I like to play my Wii game. So here, when I first read this, I wasn't sure if it was Wii or WWE because it's also like a wrestling. I left it as WWE, but then when I was doing this workshop, someone said, hey, I think that might say Wii, like a Wii game. So that's, yeah. So I think it's actually a Wii game, but yeah, I like to play my Xbox to play, and I like to play my Wii game, okay? But I know it was a little difficult to see because it wasn't too clear, but they have a lot of good things in this writing, okay? So let's go back and maybe point some of those out. So what is it, something that they did very well here? There's spaces, yep, good spaces. Yep, they have a capital here, They have a period, punctuation, good, yeah. They have a good story with what they were writing. It wasn't just, I like to play my Wii or my Xbox. I mean, they went to, detail too. So it made sense. So what would you maybe help your child with on here? Some of these are capitals and they shouldn't be. So I would say that, yeah. Yeah, and then like here, they wrote a capital G and then the M. That's probably a capital I as well too. So I would maybe just fix those. You don't want to point out too many things. I would just maybe focus on one. If it's something that they're always doing, then that's that one thing. Like if they're writing with capitals, then that's what I would focus on for a while until they can do that on their own. Okay? Okay, this is going to be our last example. This one is a little more also with detail, and it's a little hard to see, so I'll help you out. But there's a lot of labels up here, okay? So that's what I was talking about, label etiquetas is what we would call them. So here they have light, they have mom, lamp, fan, me, lamp. Here it says dog. Oh, right here it says picture. It's P-I-S-H-E-R, picture, okay? Kitchen too, they wrote kitchen right here. They wrote it C-I-C-H-I-N, kitchen, okay? So again, that's all phonetic, okay? And that's fine because it does make sense. Okay, and they're writing it was a, so using sounds, so it's really, really. Okay, I'll help you with this one. It was a really, and then here they wrote cold, but they were working on changing the words to use words that they don't normally use. So they wrote actually chilly. It was a really chilly night in my classroom. I was freezing. And then here they were trying to write brr. So let's think again. What did they do very well here? The spaces, good spacing. They actually, it's actually a little heart. She had a little heart on top of the eye. So yeah, so no, yeah. So it's not capital, so I would say, hey, let's fix this to make it a capital. Yes. It was a really chilly night in my classroom. I was freezing. Yeah, this is actually a really good, a good sentence here because they talk about where they're at and what's going on, that they were freezing. And they actually even gave more detail too about the day. It was a really chilly day, or a chilly night. And then at the end, she wrote brr. So this is a really, it's a more developed writing than from the first one we saw with I like pizza, okay? So all of these writings is some kind of event that the child was thinking about and writing about, okay? So it was, you know, the little boy that was out playing the Frisbee with Connor, the little girl that wrote I like pizza, that was something, you know, of herself that she liked pizza. The one about the Xbox, I like to play the Xbox. So it was very personal and it was about them. And so that's another thing that I want you to also remember, that, you know, if they're writing something that's meaningful to them or that they experience, they're going to write more of. You know, it's a little harder even for us to just kind of write about something we're not familiar with, okay? Okay, so what I want to do with you today to help your child with the writing and to develop more detail in their writing, I want you to go ahead and take this little sheet out. It's a blue sheet that you have. Okay, so one of the things that children will say is, well, I don't really know what to write about. So rather than us telling them, oh, well, you can write, you know, let's write this and this and that, you know, then it's like, okay, and then they will always become dependent on like coming to us and asking. So what I want to do is I want to just kind of brainstorm a couple of different ideas so that we can give them, and then they can create their own story. And one of the things that I would do is I would always ask them when they would say, well, I don't know what to write about, is I would always start asking like, well, you know, who lives at home with you? Because that's usually who they would, you know, have stories about. Or who are your friends? Or your grandparents. If I knew that they, you know, would frequent their grandparents a lot, I would always start there. Or pets is another good one too that they always will write about. So on this first column right here, I want to think about either people or things or you know, friends, teachers. And the other thing too that I want to talk about is the more specific you are, the more writing or the more experiences they'll start to think about. So if you say grandma, I would suggest you say, you know, a specific name like, you know, Grandma Juanita, or, you know, or my friend. Well, who's your friend? Oh, my friend Jasmine. So be very specific. Okay, on this next column right here, we're going to talk about, well, where is this person or this friend? Where are they at? And again, the more specific you are, the better. So if they say, oh, well, we're at the park, that's fine. The park is fine. Usually, you know, they have a lot to write about the park. But if they say, oh, well, we're at the pizza place. Well, what pizza place? Chuck E. Cheese. So it makes it more detailed, okay? The last part right here would be, well, what are you doing there? So if they're at, you know, oh, I'm with my friend Jasmine, we're at Chuck E. Cheese. Well, what are you doing? Well, we're eating pizza. Or we're playing a game. So the more specific you are, the more writing they'll get. Now, I don't want you to write an entire sentence here. I just want ideas. So when they say, I don't know what to write about, then we pull this out and we say, well, look, we have, you know, Jasmine, Chuck E. Cheese, pizza. And then they can develop that sentence themselves, okay? So I'm going to give you maybe a minute or two just to kind of think about a couple of people here or, you know, things, and then 2 or 3 here, and then 2 or 3 here, okay? So I'll go ahead and, if it's okay, I'll just kind of share out one of the things that you wrote. So, so Jonathan, is Jonathan your son, or is that a friend? Okay, so Jonathan, and then the second word was park, and then the final word was running. Okay, so when he's ready to write, and then this, and you tell him these, he should be able just to make, he'll probably start with the drawing, But what other questions can you ask him so that he draws more or writes more? What else can you ask him while he's doing that? Who else is there with you? What did you do after? Yeah. So one of the things that I would encourage you to do is just ask more questions so that they answer them and they themselves are thinking of those things, okay? Rather than us telling them, you know, oh, well, why don't you draw, you know, that you played this after? So it's more asking the questions like, well, who else, you know, who are you with? What did you do after? Did you have fun? So things like that, okay? So this is something that you can just fill out as the days go, or if you go to a new place, you can remind them like, oh, hey, you know, this is somewhere we can write about this later. Let's remember to write it down in our organizer, okay? So in your folders, I also included a little book here. Okay. So a couple things with the book, there's on one page, there's a drawing already, and then on the back side, there's going to be a blank page, okay? So a couple things, I would encourage your child to draw more on these to put more detail. Like here, they could draw more people or, you know, the teacher over here on this side. And just talking about the picture, remember we talked about when we did the read aloud story, how we just kind of talked about the pictures. I would just start there too. You know, hey, what do you see here? Or what else can we add here? If your child is not writing sentences, you can maybe start with just the labeling and then you know, wait a while and then come back so that they can write a simple sentence, okay? And then on the other side where the blank pages are at, this is where you can maybe use the graphic organizer and give them ideas so that they can draw those ideas on here, okay? Yeah, and then same thing, have them draw, have them label a couple of things on their paper, and then using those labels, they can maybe create a sentence, okay? This book, you don't have to, I mean, it's like 20 pages, so if you want to wait, like, I know that break is coming up, so if maybe you want to start during break, a couple of pages, or if you even want to save it for the summer, maybe, you know, they're already getting some writings, some homework in their writing, or they're writing in other, you know, in a notebook or something, then you can save it for the summer and then have something for them to do over the summer. The other thing too, just so that we're not, you know, making this another extra thing to do, is have them pick any page. You know, they don't have to go in order. Tell them to pick a page that they want to write about. You know, maybe, I know at the back, there's, you know, a page where it's snowing. Maybe, you know, right now because they're reading books about snow, or maybe they go to the snow, they can maybe write more about this rather than maybe, you know, like this page right here. So give them choices or options on like, well, let's, you know, do you want to draw a picture, or would you like to, you know, draw more on a picture that's already there, okay? Unless they're very structured and they want to go in order, then let them go in order. But if not, let them pick whatever page they want to write about. Okay, well, that's the end of the class. I just wanted to thank you for being here every class, every workshop, and here to learn new things for your child and your children. So I'm happy that you're here and you're participating, and that the things that you do at home with your children are coming back to the classroom, and so that's helping your child and the teacher. So it's a good thing, and I thank you very much.